Nice to have the opportunity to talk to you. First of all, congratulations on the film, and congratulations, my dear, on your award, Best Actress last year at Tribeca. Not only must it be gratifying because of your wonderful performance, but also because you're a co-writer on this, so that had to have been really special for you to win that.
It absolutely was. I was not even considering the chance. But yes, it was absolutely wonderful. And it's also so gratifying when you like pour your soul, and your real life experience into an art.
Yes.
And then you get acknowledged. It's so, it's amazing.
Yeah, well, good for you. Well deserved. I want to ask you about the origins of this, because I find it really fascinating. I loved the movie. I thought it was so deep and intriguing, and I love getting into each woman's story. Wow, because honestly, I don't think there's a woman out there who can't relate to all four of these ladies in one way or another. So you get together with the director and one of the actresses as well, and the three of you wrote this. How did that all come together, and how do you share writing duties between three people?
Well, I'm going to speak just for my story, because my story we co-wrote with David. I actually never met Jade, the writer of another story. So I will only speak on my behalf.
Yeah.
We met with David very randomly through a friend of mine, and we just back then I was going through a process of grief. I was grieving the death of my uncle. And I found it's interesting because not a lot of people, not really anybody in my surroundings, were willing to deal with death and were willing to listen to these kind of experiences. And David was the only person who was willing to listen to my story. Mm-hmm. And that's how the collaboration began, that he said, let's write it, let's make it into a movie. So that's how it started.
Wow. And then when did the idea come about, though, to divide it up into kind of 4 chapters, and then the culmination of the women all kind of getting on this subway at the end, and what happens is, horrifying, but it's interesting to me because we're all out there in the world, and yes, we all have different lives, but in a way we can connect at any time.
Absolutely. I think that was the idea that David had. I honestly cannot speak on his behalf on the timeline and the process. It was his process. Yeah. But I think the idea was that these stories, they all have a lot of things in common. And the main thread is motherhood. Yes. That's the name Materna. And I think it just made sense to put it together in one storyline. And I think David talked about it before, that although it's 4 different stories for different characters, but it is kind of treated as an arc for one character, a woman.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to know for you, I mean, you were saying just earlier that it was on based on a personal experience, obviously, because your character does go home because she finds out her uncle has passed away. Tell me a little bit about the process of writing this for you and how cathartic it must have been.
Oh my gosh, it definitely was. And it's funny because I've always been saying that I hate writing. I don't like writing. So I was kind of forced to write my emotions and my experiences. And that was definitely very therapeutic and cathartic. Although the story in the movie is a little different, but still, it was very healing. And I guess that's the whole idea.
Absolutely. What's your relationship with your own mom?
It's a very loving relationship, but it had its own up and downs. And definitely my relationship with her changed drastically after after the death of my uncle. So
in a positive or in a positive way? I know it's hard. It is really hard to, We all have our ups and downs with our mothers. At the end of the day, they're our mothers and we love them. And they're, for the most part, trying to look out for the goodness in us. But sometimes we don't see that, because we find them to be nagging or whatever, and it's an interesting relationship, an interesting dynamic.
Absolutely. I think my relationship with my mother became more healthy, but it only happened because of the very traumatic rupture
Right.
that happened before that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in a way, it's like in order to heal or make something better, it has to become worse.
I understand. Yeah, it's true. I completely can agree with you. I get that for sure. I wanted to know if, because all the women's stories were shot separately, and then at the end you all culminate, did you sit down with the other three actresses and talk about the themes of the film, or how did that all come together?
We did not. It was all shot separately. At separate times, but we did come together at the last moment when the last scene was shot on the subway.
Yeah.
And that was very interesting, to meet each other, connect. Yeah.
Yeah, well, also because we see that scene from different perspectives, different angles. And so, how many times did you guys end up having to shoot that scene so that we got all that different perspective?
Oh my gosh, it was like a whole night shoot. Yes, a whole night shoot on the subway.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. What was and I'm wondering too, because it's such a different type of film and so innovative and creative. What did you learn about yourself after making a film like this and working on it and being so close to the material?
Yeah. That's a very good question. Well, first of all, I learned that I think I can write.
Yes, you can.
Well, it's just interesting because I always hated writing. I did not like writing, and now I'm writing more often. And that was definitely something I learned about myself. And the other thing I learned is that it's so, what's the word? Banal. How to be more vulnerable,
Yeah.
how to sit in the vulnerable space and use it for artistic purposes, how to use that vulnerable space,
Yeah.
and how to trust with that. That's something I learned, definitely from that experience. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I want to ask you about the director, David, because this is a very female-centric film. How do you think, why was he the right director? Why didn't you go with a female? Like, I found that really interesting that
Yeah.
he was so in tune to the female psyche in this. I found that really fascinating, and I thought he did a great job. But what would have happened had a woman directed this film? Maybe,
Right.
Interesting.
That is very interesting. But I think the greatest thing about David for this project was that he really, in regards to my story, he really trusted me, and he didn't get into my way of telling my story. He really he guided me well, yes, but at the same time he kind of stepped away and let me tell my story. Right. So I think that was the biggest plus of him directing it, that I think he just lended women to tell their stories, let women tell their stories, because usually you know how it goes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, what do you hope people will take away after watching this and feel? How do you hope they'll feel?
Well, one thing I would say for people who are about to watch it, let it pass through you. Let the movie pass through you. And I don't know how people would feel, but I would want people to, get in touch with the feelings they end up with, and let the feelings just sit there. and whatever the outcome would be, it would be. But yeah, definitely just see what the feelings are and where they land and why they're there.
Yeah.
And if something healing would happen, that's wonderful. And if not, if it's just an observation, then it's also wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you talking about Materna. I really enjoyed it. And again, congratulations on the accolades for you. Boy, well deserved. You did such a great job in this film.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.